Okay. Okay, guys, maybe other people will show up in a few minutes, but we are here with Suzanne, one of our preventive care students, and she will share her experience in developing a curriculum for children in a school setting. And we are eager to see what she can share with us. Thank you, Suzanne, for doing that. And then the time is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. DeSantos. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. One moment. Which screen do you see?
The title one.
Okay, good. Okay, awesome. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Suzanne Abouelnasr. I'm a DrPH student in the Preventive Care program. And today I'm going to share a little bit about my practicum experience, which focused on empowering freshman health. It's basically a lifestyle well-being program for high school freshmen, which focuses on mental, emotional, and physical well-being. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's a quick overview of what I'll be walking you through today. One second. Okay, there. So here's a quick overview of what I'll be walking you through today. I'm going to start by giving you some context on the public health issues, specifically the rise in mental health and lifestyle challenges among adolescents. And then I'll share a little bit about the organization I worked for, Healthy Campus. And after that, I'll do a walkthrough of the project itself, the goals, methodology, and then we'll also look at some key outcomes, including what went well and what we learned. And then I'll wrap up with a few personal reflections on what I took away from the experience, and I'll also highlight the DRPH competencies that the practicum helped me strengthen. So before I get into the specifics of the program, I just wanted to highlight the core public health issues that shape this project. First, we're facing a growing mental health crisis amongst teenagers. There are very high rates of anxiety and depression, especially in marginalized communities, and access to mental health support is limited or simply not there. At the same time, we're also seeing that there's a rise in lifestyle-related conditions like obesity, type 2 diabetes, specifically in this age group as well. And these aren't just medical issues, these are deeply connected to the environment, so stress levels, and also everyday habits that begin very early on. Um, what we found what what we found, which was missing in a school-based health system, is kind of like a holistic approach. There's often a gap between how we address mental and emotional and physical health, when in reality, they're completely connected. So this program was designed to bridge that gap and support students in a more integrative and preventive way. To give a little background about the organization I worked for, they're called Healthy Campus, and they actually started off as Campus Clinic back in 2021. And they had a very specific mission at the time, which was to prevent outbreaks in schools. At the time, they were really driven by COVID, and they were just focused on, stopping the spread of the disease. But as they spent more time, working with students and staff, they also started noticing that there were other broader health needs, everything from mental health struggles to gaps in routine care. So in 2022, their services began to expand beyond the outbreak prevention to support health needs on the school campuses. And the real turning point came in 2023 when they received a grant from the state of California. That grant allowed them to evolve into what is now known as Healthy Campus and to roll out a wider range of services, including evidence-based programs like the Blues program, which is a CBT-based training designed to address early signs of anxiety and depression in teens. The grant also supported the development of multiple wellness tracks, including a mindfulness track, a nutrition movement track, and of course, a lifestyle well-being program I also worked on. As of today, I know Healthy Campus is actively pushing out two main tracks, the Blues curriculum, which they have to implement because of the grant requirements. And then the second is a grief support group that incorporates mindfulness practices, which was developed in response to a direct request from the school. So now let's talk about the actual program. So the Lifestyle and Wellbeing Program was created to address the mental health and lifestyle challenges we're seeing in teens, especially as they enter high school, which we know can be a huge period of transition. What makes this program unique is that it blends mental, emotional, and physical health education into one curriculum. It's built on the idea that all of these areas are connected and that if we teach them together, we're more likely to create meaningful, lasting change. The curriculum is designed specifically for ninth graders, and it centers around five key pillars of well-being. The first being nutrition, exercise, mindfulness, sleep, and social connectedness. Each pillar is backed by evidence from lifestyle medicine and health promotion research, and the goal is to introduce these practices early so that students start building healthy habits from the beginning of high school. So now that you've seen the five pillars the program is built on, let's talk about what's underneath it all, the research and the strategies that shape how we design this. At the foundation, we started with the lifestyle modifications, simply things like, getting more movement, eating better, creating, more structured habits. These have all been shown to improve mood as well as reduce symptoms of depression, even in teens. From there, we layered on mindfulness practices, which gave students the ability to cope with stress, emotional regulation, and just become more aware of what's going on internally. And then we also pulled elements of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is one of the most proven methods for helping teens manage their anxiety and depression. And while all of these strategies are rooted in strong evidence, the real heart of the program was about making the science feel personal and practical for students. It wasn't just about teaching skills, it was about helping them understand themselves in a different way. And also, that's kind of where the self-awareness component really came in. At the core of the program, one of the biggest things we really wanted students to walk away with was a sense of self-awareness and more curiosity around their own thoughts, emotions, and even physical sensations. Teens often internalize everything that's happening around them. And when you layer on things like changing hormones, stress, or even awkwardness, like figuring out who they are, it's really easy for them to fall into negative loops without realizing it. So part of the curriculum was about giving them a pause button and helping them get curious and not critical of themselves. Instead of jumping into internal dialogues like I'm lazy, maybe there's something wrong with me, I must be stupid. We're trying to encourage them to stop and ask questions like, how has my sleep been this week? Have I had any water today or any real food? What's been going on lately? These are just gentle check-ins that help students make sense of their experience and remind them that how they feel isn't random. It's all connected. And that's and that the more aware they are, the more they can take care of themselves in a way that actually works. So we wanted to include this kind of self-reflection because it's empowering and it's the kind of skill that can shift how they respond to stress, not just now, but for the rest of their lives. When we were putting the curriculum together, we didn't just want it to be another set of lessons. We wanted it to feel real and useful, um, and something that students can connect to and use in their daily life. So first off, we focused on mental health and emotional regulation, and that's kind of where we pulled in the little pieces of CBT. And then there were mindfulness components. So we made sure that every session started with short practices like breathing, grounding, or just checking in with how they were feeling. And then for the lifestyle stuff, we kept it very interactive. We talked about food, sleep, movement, but through activities and discussions, which made it feel a little more relevant. The goal was to help them connect how their habits are actually influencing their mood, their focus, and their energy. And we definitely didn't want to leave out social connectedness. So within the curriculum, we also built in a lot of activities that, involve them working with a partner or have small group chats or or encourage them to share different stories and reflect together. So it wasn't just about learning, it was also about, building community within the classroom setting. So yeah, every session kind of hit on every core pillar, and it's not just in the content, but the experience. And we wanted the students to feel the impact, not just hear about it. Okay, so this is just an overview of the target population. I already kind of um, uh, gave a little insight on this earlier, but the target group was a group from Rancho Buena Vista High School in San Diego, and they focused specifically on incoming freshmen, so around 500 students, and it was designed to be as inclusive as possible. As long as they were freshmen, they could participate in the program. All right. So once we laid out the foundation for what the program was about, we started thinking through how it could actually be delivered in a school setting in a way that felt both structured and engaging. So we mapped out a 6-week curriculum that weaves together all of the 5 pillars. Each week spotlights one of the 5 pillars, like nutrition, movement, sleep, mindfulness, and we also had to make sure that it was relevant and tailored to teens. Um, that was very important to us. And we also needed to make it engaging. So we included methods like, group discussions, journaling prompts, guided practices, interactive activities, things that would really help students reflect, connect, and apply what they're learning in real time. The goal was to build something that felt doable, practical, and we definitely did not want to create another lecture series. So that was very important for us as we developed the curriculum. So current results, deliverables, call it what you will. After several months of developing content and organizing materials and mapping out how the program could actually be delivered, here's the things that stand out. So I did complete and develop the 6-week curriculum session by session. I organized and helped the freshman conference where over 500 students were introduced to the program. I also served as the keynote speaker in 3 out of those 6 sessions, which was a great opportunity to connect directly with the students and set the tone for the event. Um, I trained facilitators to lead the breakout group sessions during the event. So even though the full curriculum hadn't launched yet, students still got a taste of the wellness content through interactive activities and reflections. And then I also completed the Blues program training, which is it's CBT based certification, which focused on youth mental health. And that training helped shape how I was building out the CBT components in the curriculum. So, looking back on this whole experience, I walked away with a lot more than just a finished curriculum. It really stretched me in ways that I didn't expect. In terms of strengths, I think one of the biggest things that I was able to do was lead this project from the ground up. I created the curriculum, helped design the flow of the conference, trained facilitators, presented keynote speakers in 3 out of the 6 sessions. And honestly, it kind of just gave me confidence in my ability to step into a leadership role and make something meaningful come to life. In terms of challenges, there were definitely a few. Um, I felt like the project scope kept changing and there weren't a lot of hands on deck. So I ended up managing a lot of moving pieces myself. And that meant juggling timelines, coordinating with different people, trying to keep things aligned without much of a roadmap. We were kind of building the ship while flying it, or building the plane while flying it. And because I was handling so much responsibilities that were technically out of my initial scope, the one deliverable I was actually responsible for, which was the full curriculum, got delayed. And I had to actually continue working on it for an additional month after the practicum ended, which was far from ideal for me. So it was tough, but it taught me a lot about setting boundaries and also the importance of asking for help early on. Um, in terms of key insights, I think flexibility was huge. Things shifted constantly, and I had to learn how to adapt without losing sight of the bigger picture. I also realized, how important clear communication is when you're managing stakeholders or trying to keep a team on the same page. And that really deepened my understanding of how to build curriculum that blends, evidence-based practices with real-world evidence. Um, and yeah, looking ahead, I know um, that this experience, will absolutely shape how I approach future work, whether it's designing or implementing or evaluating programs. I feel way more equipped. And it reminded me that leadership isn't just about doing the work, it's about creating something that others can build on as well. So overall, even with the bumps along the way, I'm proud of what came out of it, and I'm excited to take on what I've learned and apply it to whatever comes next. Um, in terms of DRPH competencies, um, I guess now that I've walked you through the project outcomes and personal reflections, I think it's a big circle moment when we connect it back um, to the DRPH competencies and how the practicum really aligned with the core competencies. So the first is integrate knowledge from multiple professions. When I designed the curriculum, I pulled from psychology, specifically, CBT. I had to kind of do a dive into nutrition, public health to create something that felt holistic and relevant for teens. So it wasn't just about looking at things from one angle. The goal was to build something that was well-rounded and reflected the complexity of student wellness. So everything from stress management to lifestyle habits to mental health was woven into the curriculum using the multidisciplinary lens. Um, and then for the second competency, assessing leadership capacities, the project was a really big lesson in leadership for me. I had to really reflect on my strengths, weaknesses, and the scope of the work. Um, and even though that was shifting, I had to keep navigating that and coordinating with different people and trying to find ways to kind of stay sane amidst all the chaos. Um, and then finally, the third competency is integrating cultural values into the program design. So I worked hard to make sure that the curriculum was inclusive and culturally responsive, especially considering the diversity of the students in Rancho Buena Vista. The content wasn't just thrown together, it was actually meant to resonate with students and be sensitive to their lived experiences. And that was a huge part of how I approached both the design and the messaging. So yeah, overall, I think that the practicum helped me flex a lot of the skills that the DRPH program emphasizes, real world leadership, cultural humility, and also the ability to bring together, different disciplines to solve public health challenges. And so yeah, I feel really good about the experience. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. But before I close, I want to give a big thank you to Dr. DeSantos, not only for his guidance throughout the entire practicum process, but also for his support and for connecting me with the Healthy Campus team. And I also want to thank everyone who attended today. I really appreciate your presence and attention. And that concludes my presentation. I'm going to leave it open for a few minutes of Q&A. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, thank you. I okay. Ah, I have a few questions, but you don't need to thank me for anything because you did most of it, and I just happen to know a little bit of people there. By the way, we should mention about um, Margaret Bredenhoff, that was
Alum.
um, a person that at least the first contact was with her. She is a graduate from the program, so it's good to have networking, and then we can have those opportunities.
Yeah.
But it was an exciting, at least I feel that's exciting because we don't have much of those activities with children and lifestyle. Most of our lifestyle is for old people or even middle age. So the youngers we sometimes leave them out. So my question is that first, what was the response, the reaction of these kids, I mean, during the event? So were they exciting or were not, or how they received this program?
Honestly, there it was the most intimidating group to be in front of. If you think giving a presentation in front of adults is hard, it's much harder in front of kids because they don't hide their facial expressions. Um, I think it was a mixed result. I saw a lot of students engaging with us because we ended up doing breakouts and different types of interactive activities with them. We explained the program. Some of them felt really interested, some of them were quiet, and some of them were just rowdy, like they just want to be goofy and not take the experience seriously. So we got a mixed bag. I mean, it was 500 students, but overall, I think it was a good outcome. One of the things that I noticed with the kids is that they are very self-conscious of themselves. It's difficult for them to talk to other kids, especially that was the first day of that was like a conference for them. It was like one of the first days of school. And a lot of them spoke about the stresses and pressure of performing well in school. So I felt like the program was really addressing something that was a need for them. Um, so yeah, I think I would say it was a mixed response, if I have to be completely honest.
And what was the area that they enjoy the most? Like you mentioned about psychological mindfulness, and then exercise and physical and mental. So which was the one that they really grasp and enjoy?
I think they really enjoyed the exercise. A lot of them in our reflection or small breakout groups talked a lot about being interested in sports, whether it was soccer or basketball, both girls and boys. So yeah, it was not that surprising, but it was just like, oh, that's like I didn't think that that was going to be that like what they would have been really interested in. But yeah.
Yeah, it is good for for our students to have this perspective when they develop programs for children. The exercise component must be there,
Yeah.
or some games or some activities that is really increases or includes the physical component.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know if I saw during the presentation. Maybe I missed that part. But what were the main objectives and what were the outcomes that you got from that? So in terms of this simple thing that you did was just to develop the curriculum, or they have a little more in perspective there.
So I don't know if you remember this, Dr. DeSantos, but I was supposed to join this team in fall, but I ended up joining them in summer. So basically my job was to do all of the pre-work for the launch of the curriculum. So I did talk about the objectives. I had a lot of materials, like core values of the program, the objectives, basically like it's all focused on mental, physical, emotional well-being and developing various aspects. but my area is really just focused on the curriculum building. Um, One of the reasons, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier, even for them to get someone to do the blues training, which is what they originally got the grant for, they haven't been able to find people like facilitators to run the program in person. So I feel like this is like a really big bottleneck for them. Um, just finding a facilitator to be physically at the school and run the program. So yeah, my job really was to create the curriculum for them, and hopefully be involved as they needed. I don't know if I answered your question, but I
Yeah.
also have slides objective as well. I did have it, but I talked more about the objectives of the program more so.
Yeah, what I think you answer in terms of your um, role there with the practicum, but in terms of the whole thing, in terms of what is that they are going to do with that, the intention was to incorporate this in the normal school curriculum or having someone from outside. What was that idea?
Okay. So I don't know if it's like this in every school district, but specifically for this school, every year they have a freshman seminar. And that freshman seminar is basically like a series of courses that are taught to freshman students, and they run through either you can make them 6 weeks or you can make them 10 weeks. And in those courses, they're supposed to give like they could it there's some courses that could be like health education. They're courses that are outside of their school, their regular school curriculum. Um so so yeah, they like sorry, I forgot the question. We could say it's pregnancy brain.
No, the question is for the local school or the local district, what is the curriculum that you develop would be used for, or how they are going to use that, if they are going to incorporate these topics and these things in their curriculum, school curriculum, or it just was an event for one time?
No, it's for freshman seminar, which is every single year that a new freshman class comes in. So imagine like the blues training program. It's already I think it's like a state approved program, and they already have 6 courses already developed. So that's why, like for me, I'm already trained in the blues program. I could technically teach the blues program. I could be a facilitator of the blues program for this group of students if I mean, if there was an opportunity to. Um, so it's not something that's embedded in their curriculum. This is something that is outside that the students, every freshman class will have the opportunity to do this, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. And the conference introduces those different programs that are coming in.
Kevin, do you have any questions for Suzanne?
I guess not.
Well, while if he can get something, um, how about your your take from that? Would this something that you are going to consider to work like among children, or this is completely off of your uh, personality or plans for the future?
I'm really glad you asked this question because it was something I reflected on when I actually did the keynote speaker or series. Um, I feel that my strength, if I ever facilitated a program like this, which I would love to, um, I feel that my strength would be working with college students or people, or if it had to be high school, it would be seniors, people who are transitioning into college. But working with this particular age group, like just from my experience, it's very tough. Um, they're really dealing with a lot emotionally, physically. They're so uncomfortable. You can even feel it when you're around them. They're uncomfortable with themselves. It takes a lot of patience to work with a population like this. And then also, they make you feel stupid or there's some because they don't, and it's not even you. It's, I mean, they're not trying to be mean, but they can't hide. They haven't developed the skills of like, not showing their emotions, not showing that they're disinterested, not showing, you know what I mean? So I think it's something that's extremely needed, but I don't personally think that I'm the person with like my personality or my skill set is more geared towards speaking with people who are maybe at a higher level, like college level. So that was the first thing I reflected on. I was like, I don't know how people work with this age group. It's so hard.
I'm laughing because I have a granddaughter that is on that is a teen, just became a teen within this year, and is exactly like that. But she loves us, so
Yeah, so
we
she's
still
nice.
have that connection. But when I go to, because we, on that age, when you are a grandfather, you go after them, and so you go on their activities, and so when we relate to their friends is a different world. So we
Yeah.
relate with her very well, but when the group is together, you can't forget about
They're
communicating, about saying anything. You just stay there as a person. Okay, there is this guy here. So
they're honestly, I feel like that age group is so intimidating to be around. It's very, very intimidating. I, yeah, it would be very difficult for me to work with them. I would have to develop a new personality, I think. So I don't know.
but
Yeah.
one thing we learn is that her name is Alana, and she is involved in sports all the time. And this is a big topic. So we
Mm,
went to basketball games and baseball games and volleyball games, soccer games, and she's always into that. And that group and that support makes
yeah.
us to be a little more meaningful for them and creates a connection,
Yeah.
and they love to do that. So
Yeah.
that what you observe that is general. So this group of this age group needs to do exercise, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah, I think some schools are becoming a little more involved in their exercise programs or taking them more seriously because I think back in the day, even when I was a student, I remember PE was never taken that seriously. It
Mhm.
was just like, oh, it's a class you show up to, you kind of do some things. But I think now there's a lot of student or a lot of schools that are prioritizing that. So I'm really happy to see that.
Okay, I'm not sure if Kevin got any question because we are going to adjourn the session.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone who came and those that will listen in the future, maybe. And yeah, thank you, Dr. DeSantos.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
for thank you for presenting that. And we really appreciate this involvement and this experience. And then I hope it's going to motivate other students here in the program to look for activities in terms of lifestyle and prevention in for populations that are not the usual ones. And
Yeah,
for sure, we need to promote this among the children because the children is going to be the adults of tomorrow. And
yeah,
if we can influence them now, for sure, we will have a better or healthier population tomorrow. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Says Kevin.